All right. I see a lot of people on our meeting here. So welcome to our fall Adabas Natural user group meeting. Appreciate everybody taking time out of your day to join us. We have, as usual, a very full agenda. Um, and I'm just going to do a couple of ground rule things. Nicole, if you want to go ahead and pop up the agenda. But everybody, we're going to put you on mute. If you have any questions throughout any of the sessions, please type your questions into the chat box here. And we'll answer those either as we go through the session, or more likely at the end of each session, we'll take time out to answer any questions that you may have. Nicole, can you share your screen, please? There you go, with the agenda. So I'm just going to take a couple minutes, and then I'm going to introduce Arno Theis. And I don't want to, since we're running a little bit behind already, I don't want to take even longer, but most of you probably saw the agenda when you registered for the event. We have some really good presentations from Software AG people and from non-Software AG people who are using our products out there in the real world. So without any further delay, let me introduce Arno Theis. Arno is the global manager for Adabas Natural. So that means he's everybody's boss that works at Software AG in the Adabas Natural world. And it's a real honor, Arno, for you to meet with us today.
Thank you very much, Becky, for inviting me to this North America user group meeting, but it's anyway international. So I'm really happy to join this meeting and to spend a couple of minutes at the opening with you, because I would like to highlight a few things. So warm welcome to everybody. North America User Group is one of the largest user groups we have worldwide, if not even the largest one. So thank you very much for joining this meeting and for your loyalty with our great products, Adabas Natural. So I want to highlight a few things, and I think you have seen that earlier. Our strategy, Adabas Natural 2050 plus. This, and I want to underline that, this is not just a statement. This requires a lot of activities. And many people at Software AG are working on it. So in order to make it happen, we have to do a lot of things, and we have to take investments. One very crucial part is we have to manage the generational change. And at Software AG, we are investing in managing the generational change. We continuously are hiring young people, graduates right away from the university, but also experienced guys. So people who have already a strong background in either mainframe or cloud. You all know our products are running on 3 strategic platforms, basically IBM COS, Linux, and cloud, and in all the major clouds, and on Windows. So managing the generational change is absolutely key in order to support a strategy 2050 plus. And I know you also have to manage that on your side, and feel free to reach out to us where we can help. But a 2050 plus strategy is nothing without product innovations. We continuously need to innovate. We have to deliver new releases. We have to improve even the well-known software with new functions and features, and we are releasing also new products. Today, you will hear a lot about our recent product innovations, and we will continue to innovate. It is not only that we moved Adabas Natural also to the cloud, that it is able to run in the cloud. You know our SIP products And you know what we released recently, I think Luciano will talk about it in a couple of minutes. So please enjoy the session. Thank you for joining. Thank you for your patience. We had some hiccups technically, but first of all, thank you for your loyalty with Adabas Natural and Software AG. Thank you very much. Back to you, Becky.
Thank you, Arno. Yeah, and as Arno said, thank you all, for being longtime Adabas Natural customers. I know most of you practically my whole career here at Software AG, which is now over 36 years. Isn't that hard to believe? But anyway, going into our very first presentation of the day is Luciano Pimenta. He works for Software AG in Brazil. I've known Luciano for a long time, and he's going to talk to you about the Adabas Natural innovations that are relatively new and coming your way. So Luciano, over to you.
Thank you, Becky. Hope you see my screen and my video. Hope everything is working fine. So yeah,
Luciano, can you go into slideshow mode, please?
Yeah, I'm doing that.
Okay, thank you.
Can you see it now?
No, we see you, so do a share again.
Sorry about it. Let's do it again. Hopefully it works now, Becky.
We still see the actual PowerPoint, not the share mode.
You're showing presenter view.
Yeah, presenter view.
I don't know what's happening, so let me stop sharing again.
And there's already a couple of questions about the PowerPoints. We will be making all of the PowerPoints from this whole user group available to you after the meeting. Nicole will be sending you guys a link or something for all of that. So yeah, everybody's going to get all the PowerPoints because I know there's always so much information you can't take enough notes quick enough. So
hit that button from beginning. There you go.
There you go. Thank you.
Better
Luciano.
now?
Yes, go.
Also some hiccups from the technician. No problem. So yeah, thanks Becky for the invitation. So I'm Luciano Pimenta, and I work here at Software AG as a solution architect in the Adabas Natural business unit. Really glad to be invited for this Natural Adabas North America user group today. So really good content today. Hopefully everybody will like it. And my topic today is actually about innovations, right? Just like Arno said, and on the Adabas Natural platform. And so let's go for it. But let me start. And I always like to start by refreshing this Adabas Natural 2050 plus strategy. Maybe you have seen this slide before, but it's the slide I like to explain what is the strategy, the 2050 plus strategy, all about. And this slide shows everything you need. And the goal of the strategy is to make the core business Adabas Natural applications future ready. Okay. And I must say that we are constantly reviewing and actually adapting this strategy. Okay. For example, two areas where we recently put high focus is security and high availability, and we see them represented here. So recently, in the last years, we came with Adabas encryption for ZOS and also for Linux, Adabas auditing for ZOS, and the enhancements also on Adabas soft security to complement the security aspects. And I must say, although Adabas Natural can be considered quite good in those areas, but we must continuously improve on them, as Arno said, and in any of the supported platforms, not only on the mainframe, but also on Linux and in the cloud, right? Another thing that we look is for the understanding that adoption of Natural One with Eclipse and DevOps practices with an agile development mode is really helping our customers to manage the generational change. And that's why we keep investing a lot of effort on R&D side in Natural One and improvements, okay? And unlocking the business logic and data from our ANN applications is key, okay, to allow you to innovate and integrate with digital solutions, okay? For example, APIs and hybrid integration, data analytics, or even new applications, either on-prem or in the cloud. And I may say that we have equipped the platform with tool sets which really allow you to achieve these goals, right? Okay, and on the platform side, the mainframes are strategic for Software AG, and as such, we are glad to announce that we are now supporting the IBM z/OS version 3.1, which was released. And as announced by IBM, z/OS 3.1 marks a new era on operating system intelligence, as they announced. And but the most important thing here is that our Adabas Natural customers can actually really benefit from the key innovations of this new z/OS release, including the next level security and resiliency as announced by IBM. So we are ready for it. Okay, but let's talk about innovations on the platform. And let's start with z/OS platform. So as Arno mentioned, innovation is typically delivered embedded in the new versions of the products that we ship, right? Let's start with Natural for z/OS family. So we had our version release about 3 weeks ago in October, somewhere in October. And in this release, we have made available Natural version 9.2 for z/OS. And for reference, the end of maintenance of this new version will be on October 26th, yeah, for your planning. And this new version is bringing a lot of new stuff, actually. And I can highlight here some enhancements in statements, new system commands. We will see this in a moment. And more on the, let's say, on the infrastructure side of Natural, we now have support for example, for TLS encryption, for the debug attached server, and now the message from external security systems like RACF for top secret being issued in the NDV server log. Also on the NDV side, by the way, so we have the new web interface to monitor the NDV servers on z/OS. So a completely redesigned look and feel in the monitoring web tool that we offer. And by the way, the NDV servers are now even more important than ever because it's a component which is specially used by Natural One developers. And we see an increasing adoption of Natural One by our mainframe customers, okay? Predict now is version 8.6.1, and it's supporting the latest DB2 versions 12 and 13 from IBM. And last but not least, we have also released a new version 1.1.2 of our new product Natural Batch for DB2 for zip, but I will cover this in a moment. Let me highlight two new enhancements here, and one is the new system command, the command which. So it's a new system command. It searches, let's say, for an object that you provide a name in the library search order of your Natural environment. So, for example, it helps you detect from where a cataloged object is being called at runtime, or even help you, for example, to detect from where a source, for example, copy code is being included at catalog time. So very helpful and demanded from customers, by the way. And another nice one is the new support for read descending by ISN in the read statement, meaning backward reading by ISN. So it's now with this enhancement even easier to get, for example, the last ISN which was included in the file. So that was nice. And now I would like to revisit with you our portfolio on zip enablement solutions. Arno also mentioned some enhancements in this area. So we may say that this portfolio is a huge success since it was launched in 2012 when we started with Natural Batch zip, for example. Then we kept expanding the portfolio and the support to other areas, for example, Kix, Complete, and IMS, meaning the online processing, the TP monitors, and of course, later on also to Adabas and Adabas add-ons. So And why it became, let's say, a huge success? Precisely because it's an effective cost savings option, right? And it's easy to install with no risks, and it delivers a much better performance to the environment instantly. So, and as we see here in this slide, we have a last member of the zip family in Software AG. So it's the Natural batch for DB2 for zip, which was born last year. And it's about him I would like to do some refreshment for you. So the focus of this solution is to improve efficiency of our zip solutions for the Natural DB2 customers, right? Allowing them to have, let's say, the same high level of GP CPU reduction, just like with the pure natural batch with Adabas use case that we have in the customer base. And to realize how this product perform, please follow me in these three scenarios that I will present. So number one, you see it, customers with pure natural plus natural DB2, but with no zip enablement. So you see the red bar. So that's all the CPU processed being spent on the GP processor, which is the billable processor where the MIPS are consumed. And that makes the bills from IBM, for example, and others. Scenario number two, customers with natural batch zip already, plus natural DB2. So they started to realize some good processing on zip already, but still a huge portion of the CPU is still spent on GP, right? And finally, number three, that's where natural batch zip is being combined with natural batch for DB2 for zip, the new product. And here we achieve maximum possible eligible efficiency on zip. And the GP portion is strongly reduced. That's what we want, and that's what our customers also want. And as a plus, as you can see, on DB2 side of the house, meaning DB2 address space, can also realize up to 60% zip offloading as well, which is allowed by IBM in this scenario, okay? Therefore, that's the best scenario possible. And the good news is that we have this new version, and we have some relevant innovations also for natural batch for DB2 for zip, okay? First, we expanded the coverage for additional DB2 data types and also new SQL statements being supported, right? Second, and maybe even more important, I would say, the support for static mode, where natural DB2 programs now can be prepared using SQLJ functionality from IBM, and the execution is then of the SQL statements from that program is totally static, okay? This is important, right, for performance and efficiency, but also helps in security aspects. And we learned this demand strongly coming from the field where we capture from our customers, and now we are delivering it in this new version 1.12, just released in October, okay? So now jumping into the Adabas ZOS family. So next release for Adabas ZOS is planned for October 24, okay? It will be a version number 861. That's what is planned currently, okay? And the focus will be on the AHA requests, and you will see what is AHA in a moment, and also in the exploitation of 64-bit memory. So more and more enhancing the performance of Adabas by exploiting this 64-bit memory. But other memories, let's say, of the Adabas family had their new versions released now in October. So for example, Adabas Manager with version 9.2 continue to expand, let's say, the number of attributes that can be managed for Adabas ZOS out of the Adabas Manager. Just to refresh you on this, or maybe you know it, but Adabas Manager currently supports Adabas on Linux and Windows, and on Adabas on ZOS, as we just discussed it, but also entire network on Linux and ZOS. And as a plus, also Adabas auditing for ZOS can have always its administration done through the Adabas Manager interface, okay? Entire network, version 6.6.1 just came out also with improved performance on the kernel side, on ZOS, but also, let's say, on the connectivity with TCP/X links, especially when coming from Linux, connectivity is using TCP/X direct links, and a lot of improvement in performance was done in this area as well, okay? And last but not least, Adabas Review is now with version 5.3.1 and with some relevant performance enhancements as well. Okay. Okay, that was for ZOS, but let's look now into Linux and cloud innovations, an important area as well. So please, you don't need to read all of this, okay? It's a lot of information, but the volume of details here in our products shows how much new stuff we created in this October release for these platforms. And we will need maybe a few hours to go through all of this, but that's not the idea today. I just like to really highlight some topics, okay, from this whole amount of news that we have here. First is the Adabas encryption for Linux. It's not necessarily new. It was already there maybe for 1 or 2 years, but we have new relevant capabilities just delivered now in October, okay? Like, for example, the encryption for the work dataset and P-logs from Adabas, and also the backups from Adabas being encrypted. And the support for the Azure key vault as the new key management system option. So if customers are running Microsoft Azure Cloud, they can take advantage of exploring the Azure key vault for storing their Adabas keys, okay? And the new thing here is the Adabas cluster for Linux, now fully available in October. So robust solution for making Adabas high available also on Linux, just like we have on the ZOS side, okay? And the new product, Natural Availability Server, delivering also high availability capabilities for Natural on Linux and the cloud. But I will touch these two guys now, especially, okay? So, as I mentioned in the ANN 2050 Plus strategy, recently one major focus was on security and high availability, right, in any platform. So here you see, this is a reference architecture, okay, for Adabas Natural running on Linux and or in the cloud, and showing that customers can move from a monolithic architecture to a more sophisticated distributed architecture. And in fact, some customers are already doing that step and realizing huge benefits, okay? This design is bringing already redundancy for the Natural Online part of the processing, but also for the Natural services with EntireX. So multiple VMs, as you see here in the design, VMs or containers, right? Doesn't matter, depending on the deployment mode that's chosen by the customer, can now work in parallel, yeah, to deliver more availability and more scalability for this application. And as you see in the design, a load balancer can then work on top, distributing the workload to the existing backend servers. So all is very nice. So that was a major first step. But as you see, Adabas can be considered still a single point of failure in this design, meaning we can only have one single Adabas nucleus running for that particular database. So to overcome this issue, we introduced Adabas cluster for Linux. So the solution allows then multiple copies of the same database to run in parallel in different environments, or even in different data centers, meaning across data centers, actually. We're using what we call in a shared nothing approach, where we basically need network communication between the nodes. So it works with a primary, secondary concept, and it's fully transparent for Adabas client applications using databases in Adabas. So you don't need to touch anything on the application side, okay, which is very convenient. But as you see here, there is one fact still open, I would say, is the fact that the Natural Online portion of the processing, which is very relevant. So the Natural Online sessions, they are still not persisted and could eventually be lost, okay, in the event of a failure, for example, in the VMs where they were running, or even in the containers that they were running. So, and then again, what we did, we worked to overcome this gap, okay, and we just released Natural Availability Server. It's a new solution from the Natural family on Linux and the cloud. So it's a very robust technology here to increase the natural availability in distributed architectures, okay, implementing natural session persistency and ability to move between the available backend servers. So it basically is eliminating single points of failure, allowing automatic failover between backend servers, also ability to auto scale in and out, also in a shared nothing approach. So we just need network communication. We don't share any other resource between the nodes, which is really, really important. And for sure, it gives you an additional benefit, which is the brand new rich Angular web-based interface for the end users. And I give you a view of this in the next slide. So you see, this is the new interface that comes along with the natural availability server. So you can move away from the old terminal emulators and just start using what we delivered by default together with the natural availability server. So this is our landing page when user is asking to provide his credentials. And here's some more two screens. So you have a look and feel of the application written in natural using the natural availability server. Okay. So here now a summary of the journey that a customer can take towards a full high available architecture in the perspective of Adabas Natural on Linux and the cloud specifically. And as you see, it's a phased approach where each customer can evaluate their challenges and their business requirements, and then decide for the journey at their own speed, okay? As we see in the single instance monolithic design, that's maybe where most of our customers running on Linux are doing that kind of architecture. Then we can introduce a more sophisticated distributed architecture that can be deployed now already with redundancy and load balancing capabilities. And then we can make it even much more robust, I would say, with Adabas cluster for Linux and the natural availability server working together, which would bring then Adabas Natural to the maximum level of availability in the infrastructure for Linux and the cloud, okay? So very brand new technology from us, and very excited about it. Okay, I show it today a good number of enhancements, as you may recognize, and also innovations, implemented in our platforms. And I would say a good portion of these enhancements and innovations came also from suggestions from customers like you. So, and we plan many more for the upcoming release October 24 next year. So therefore, I invite you to keep us busy, let's say, submitting your ideas. We are using AHA platform for this interaction, okay? And here you can see a link on how to reach out to the platform and create your own ideas for product enhancements, or if you eventually face a recurring problem where you see something could be done better to improve the products, you are more than welcome to submit it, and that's very nice. In AHA, you can also see ideas coming from other customers, and you can submit your voting for each idea if you like it or not, okay? This would allow us, especially the voting, would allow us to realize, let's say, the most popular ideas, okay, from the field, which then helps our product managers and then Software AG to evaluate and eventually prioritize them in the roadmap. Also would like to share with you our Software AG Developer Center. So it's a place where you can find links for tutorials, trainings, and even videos for the most relevant topics. I really love the videos, to be honest, because they are typically short in time and walk you through the topic in a very light way. You know, can even follow, if you have the software at hand, you can follow what's been presented in the video. So I really like it and I recommend. It also offers a lot of assets, I would say, for new young developers that wants to learn natural programming language, especially with Natural One, okay? From here, you can also investigate the community and get access to free trials, product documentation, and roadmaps. So really worth visiting this site. Now, a summary of some very useful links before we close. So again, AHA, please share your ideas or new ideas, vote for the ones you like in the platform. This is a platform that we put together some months ago, and we would like really to you to use it. And as said, many ideas came from the ideas that was introduced into AHA. Okay. Tech Forum is also a place where you can ask experts around the world and any challenge that you might face, or if you just want to share your experience with a big problem you had and you find a good solution for it, and then share your experience and get feedback and exchanges with other people around the globe. And we also launched a new GitHub project, okay, where you can contribute and learn from code samples that we provide there and put your own code there if you like. So it's a place that you also could have a look. And also, as you see, we have also our roadmap slides, and eventually the release information can also be found in the corresponding links that you see here in the slide. Okay, so with that, I come to the end of my presentation and open to questions if you have them eventually, Becky.
Thank you, Luciano, very much. And great job. Finally, some of the things that we've been asking, for a long time, like database memory being larger, especially the buffer pool and things like that. So I appreciate it. All those links are valuable. And again, everybody on the user group here, you will be getting all of these presentations. So you will have all these hyperlinks so that you can go to all these different locations. Another thing that I forgot to mention, I should put myself back on camera. I forgot to mention earlier, because we did get a little bit of a late start, is thanks to Nicole Ritchie, who organizes this whole user group and coordinates it for all of us. We have some Amazon gift cards to give away, and I'll be doing a drawing for a couple of Amazon gift cards at the first break, and I'll do a couple of more at the end of the user group. And you do have to be on to win, so that's an incentive to stick around. So our next presentation, and we're only about 10 minutes behind schedule due to our technical difficulty earlier, but our next session is Zero Trust and what does it mean to you? And it's going to be Wayne Lashley, who most of you probably know, who used to work for Treehouse, has been working for Software AG for a long time now. Bob, Jeff Cott, and Prudvi, Penn Metza, Bob and Prudvi, and some of the other guys, we all work together. Adabas Natural, we're a tight community. And so anyway, I'm going to turn it over to those guys to talk about what does Zero Trust security mean for you.
Okay, thanks, Becky. So yeah, my name's Wayne Lashley. I am an account executive with Software AG, serving the West and Midwest for both commercial and government customers in both US and Canada. I have been around the Adabas Natural community for a long time, probably going on 40 years now. And, a big chunk of that time was actually, I was a Software AG customer. And I remember having many conversations with Software AG people about, new products and capabilities. And, there'd be great, features and value and all this sort of stuff. But, it always seemed like security, when it came up, it was almost like an afterthought. These days, that cannot be the case. Of course, everybody's got security at top of mind. But, back in the day, we used to treat the data center, we had kind of an approach where we said the data center is a castle and we put a big moat around it. It's wide, it's deep. We put alligators in it. And anybody that manages to cross the bridge, or that we allow to cross the bridge and enter the castle, they're pretty much good to go. They can kind of roam around and do the things that they want to do. That wasn't, strictly true, but, it was something where the main impediment was just getting across the bridge into the castle. These days, we have a different approach, and a lot of people have, or a lot of you have probably heard about the Zero Trust approach. And this isn't a case where we're getting rid of the moat necessarily, but what we do is once you get into the castle, we're still going to keep an eye on you. And Zero Trust says that you're going to get scrutinized. Everything that you do, we need to make sure that you're allowed to do it, that it's an appropriate thing for you to do at that time for that purpose. And there is no trusting of anything, you have to be properly credentialed and authorized to basically carry out any activity that's going on within the data center network. So, today Bob and Prudvi are going to kind of dive into more detail on the fundamentals of Zero Trust, show you how our products and capabilities can be brought to bear so that you can support your own Zero Trust initiative. Believe it, you are going to be doing Zero Trust sometime. It's coming if it's not already with you, and that's why we thought it was be a good idea today for Bob and Prudvi to kind of introduce the concepts and the capabilities and get you a little bit versed in Zero Trust. Okay, and with that, Prudvi, I'm going to throw it over to you, and you can take it away.
Thank you, Wayne.
Oh, wait, hang on one second. Kurt, I think you're showing your screen. Prudvi, you need to share your screen, please.
No,
Yeah,
Bob.
it's Bob.
Yeah, we are good. Hey,
I see
Tracy and
Tracy.
Bob. Yeah, Bob.
Oh, is that tracing and
Doing.
debugging, you guys? Okay,
No,
all right.
not the tracing and debugging. It went back to something else. Okay. Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Prudvi Penmasa. I am a systems engineer. Today, I'm going to talk about what is Zero Trust. I'm not going to go deep detail, but I would like to highlight what is Zero Trust, what are the different components of the framework. Then I will hand over to Mr. Bob Jeffcott, who would explain what are the capabilities available that you can use to implement Zero Trust for Adabas Natural. As everybody knows, Zero Trust is not it's picking up since last 10 years. And it is not that no one has security. Everybody has their own security mechanism. But the Zero Trust for database is a security framework and a strategy designed to enhance data protection by assuming that threats exist both inside and outside. As earlier Wayne said, once they're inside the perimeter, they're trusted and the trust is assumed, they can do whatever they could do. But Zero Trust framework, as I said, it's not a solution, it is a framework. You need to implement all the capabilities to make it a Zero Trust. It is continuously evolving and it has to be implemented. So by Zero Trust framework doesn't trust by default. Once the device is inside the network, it can be trusted. In the Zero Trust framework, trust is never assumed. Access to resources, including databases, is strictly controlled and monitored, regardless of where the user or device inside or outside the network. As you know, with the pandemic, it's happened before everybody's going to office and get connected. The pandemic put a new requirement, making sure whoever is accessing the system from external has to be identified and authorized with multi-factor authentication. So Zero Trust has the framework comes with several things I'm going to talk about in the highlighted diagram. The policy engine, what is this policy engine and policy administrative point, and what are the things that makes a Zero Trust framework make it more secure, right? So the policy engine talks about the responsible for ultimate decision to grant access to a resource for a given subject. For example, a user has been authenticated. The moment he's authenticating, the policy engine would validate and they have the right access and the role-based access controls. It also works with the external tools such as continuous diagnosis monitoring tools such as IBM GRadar and all, making sure they're monitoring the threat detection the moment something is happened. The policy engine makes sure takes out the access and protect the resources. Then policy administrator, which is responsible for establishing and shutting down the communication path between the subject and the resource. Okay, so there are several things like the tools that are capable for Zero Trust framework. I'm going to talk about what do you need to implement for a Zero Trust. The first one is identity and access management. So far as of today, so many customers using inbuilt system authentication and authorization. So using the Zero Trust framework for databases, making sure using a third-party robust identity and access management systems, which can include authentication and authorization and access control, so that users and devices must authenticate and prove their identity before accessing the database. The second one is microsegmentation, which is already being used sometimes as perimeter. So making sure the firewalls and network segmentation is a critical component of Zero Trust. It involves dividing the network into smaller isolated segments. For databases, microsegmentation ensures that only authorized users have access to the applications. The third one is least privileged access, which is making sure the users having always getting access to least privileged access resources, so that they don't have every access that they need. They need to get the access before they're doing any authorized activity. This is for all the things for user. The data at rest, which is very important, making sure all the data the communication is encrypted. And the data at rest and data at movement, both are encrypted. Then conditional access, which is very important, making sure the conditional access is granted on certain conditions and policies. For example, some users would have access to only a certain period of time. You cannot get the access to these systems the rest of the time, making sure more secure. Then multi-factor authentication, making sure using two forms such as like authenticator. Everybody's using MFA right now, right? So facial recognition or a mobile app, making sure you're getting authenticated on multi-factor authentication and give the access. Not only with giving the access, the other important things are the analytics, making sure that you have access to all the logs, who accessed what, and making sure the security analytics, which could help to prevent and analyze and research the logs. So with that, the secure remote access, making sure with this remote, like all these new lockdowns and working from home, the secure remote access is used to connect to the systems. So all these capabilities that are available has to be implemented so that the tools can be integrated with the external CDM tools such as Gradar and SIEM tools, which can be used to detect all these access and prevent and secure the resources. With that, I will hand over this presentation to Mr. Bob Jeffcott, which can help. Hey, Bob, I'm sorry, actually, I missed the next slide.
Yeah, okay. I was going to say, I'm happy, but yeah, let's go with one more.
Yeah. So what is important for the Adabas Natural world, right? It's in the Zero Trust. So most of our customers, the policies that compliance with PCI, GDPR, SOX, and HIPAA, which would make sure all these data that is like in Adabas Natural has to be protected. And as you know, most of the security threats, only 30% are coming from outside. The vulnerability, most of them attacks are happening from inside the network, 70% of them. And most of these attacks, 90% of are financially motivated, stealing the personal information and using that financial gain, right? So those are the main things. And also like these policies and everything has to be implemented, such as a mainframe GMFA. So, and also it has to, all the companies are implementing these Zero Trust framework, so that anytime a company is expanding the Zero Trust framework, all the systems that part of the enterprise has to support these security mechanisms to protect these resources. With that, I will hand out to Bob, who would explain how the Adabas Natural can use the facilities.
Thanks, Prithvi. I appreciate that. Yeah, I just want to start, as Prithvi said, you need to implement a lot of things. And as Wayne had said, for the longest time, we relied on that moat. And oftentimes that moat was homegrown security, right? What we call application level security. But if you know what you're doing, you can actually get around that. And sometimes, like Prithvi said, with the external or internal threat, sometimes it's not threats. Sometimes it's just users being stupid, right? But sometimes they are clever. And I'm not saying, and I just want to give one example. So let's say that there were 2 users in the system, in the application level system. One's me, one is my coworker, Patrick. He has far more access than I do because they think he is much smarter, much wiser. So for those of us in the ANN world, if I log on to my RACF, my Unix security, Linux security as me, but I have the ability to add NAP harms. And one of which that most people seem to think is very innocuous, very safe is I can turn the auto logon part off. Well, many of the systems rely on that star user as the basis of their applications. So now that I have auto turned off, I can put in Patrick's user ID. And since auto is typically turned on, the password is typically the user ID as well. So if I write a little program to say display star user and star init user, user is now Patrick. While it still knows internally that I am me as my user ID, typically at that homegrown application level security, I now have all the rights and privileges that Patrick does. Now, that's just one example of the various aspects you need to examine. So let's just look at those very quickly. When reviewing the scope, and Pruvy touched on these and a couple others, but continuous verification, always verify who's accessing all the time. Limit that blast radius. So it is that concept of least privilege access, getting into one area like getting into the RACF world doesn't really, give me access into everything else. And then the last thing is that automated collection of the information. Make sure all access is tracked and that it is not a manual process. And that includes the processing of that information. If the person handling the tracking data is the source of the breach or mishandles it, the forensic information could be lost. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But obviously, the first thought when we think about security is just the end user, right? That's that moat that Wayne talked about, first line of access. But we really do need to look beyond just the users. You saw that 70% of the breaches came from within, but it always isn't from the users. There are other points of failure in that security wall. And keeping in our mind our principles, let's look at some of the other areas of concern. Developers, and I know that's who we are. But often they're given the same access in production and test, or the test or the production data is copied into test where that they get access that they wouldn't necessarily have had in production. We really need to apply that least privilege access concept in each environment. Security used to be pretty straightforward, green screens, single applications, but now as Luciano mentioned, there are multiple ways to access the data in the modern world. Now we have APIs with NTireX and other tools. FTPs are all over the place. And then we have direct data access through Adabas SQL Gateway. This gives us unprecedented access to the database data. That's continuous verification and automated tracking of data access becomes even more important. Implementing security features to ensure that these access points is paramount to that zero trust framework. And when we think of data, we typically think of it just residing in Adabas or DB2 or vSAM, and we talk about data at rest or data in flight. But often that information is replicated elsewhere, whether it be into test and dev environments. But those same security requirements need to apply. And sometimes that data is replicated into another data source that may be a little easier, a data warehouse, a backup into a SQL. Two of the hacking incidents that I'm aware of were both originally Adabas data, but they weren't hacked from Adabas. They were hacked from SQL Server backups that were put in, and those same security things were not the same security requirements were not applied at that level. So you have to really think about where the data is and where it resides. And that also includes backups, P-logs, unloads that stick around forever, far after their usefulness is done. We do look at platform migrations, and oftentimes we find thousands of files that the organization was not aware even existed anymore. Those were the backups, those were P-logs, those were unencrypted, unsecured files of data. And of course, we need to be able to protect the code, especially during migration from TEB to test. And yes, that includes emergency fixes in production in the middle of the night. So with that, I do want to, and we could spend hours just talking about the different security capabilities within the platform, but I just wanted to touch on them very quickly as we go through. In the Adabase world, we do have Adabase encryption. So Adabase data secured at rest. We do have the Adabase SAF gateway, which then incorporates the security either in RACF, top secret, or the other ones. Adabase auditing is that ability to, and we could talk a little bit deeper in this, but that ability to record every interaction with Adabase. It is only available on ZOS today, but there is a very similar situation, Adabase Analytics, which can be done on ZOS or Linux and track any of the Adabase. We do have role-based authentication access, and that is available on Linux. It kind of mimics or replaces that SAF gateway kind of capability on ZOS. So I have role-based access rather than just relying on creating my own groups. Of course, we have Adabase, Ada SRC and data encryption. They've been around forever. Adabase utilities, and I have the wrong asterisk on here. It was just, I want you to be aware that the utilities are an easy way to actually get data that you might not have access to otherwise. So you have to consider that in your scope. In Natural, we support secure socket connections, TLS, SSL. We have Natural SAF gateway, Natural security, including Natural logging. And that's one of those things that you really need to make sure that those things are available, automated. We now support long passwords. For that code migration, we have PAC to ensure. In the Linux world, much like the SAF gateway, we have role-based access certificates for control for Natural applications. And we have the Natural authorized server so that any of our software that can require APF calls can leverage the Natural authorized server, like Natural Zip, Global Buffer Pool, RPC impersonations. NTireX, we want to always have your connection secured, TLS, SSL. You can implement NTireX security, which also includes encryption. We now support long passwords above the 8 characters. With NTireX Plus, because you have the limited use integration server, you can use features such as OAuth, JWT, and those kinds of things. Same thing with pass tickets and multi-factor authentications. That is also going to be supported in the next version. And then with the Web Methods API Gateway, which is an add-on product, you can support a variety of different security mechanisms for different audiences. SQL Gateway supports encrypted access as well as integrated security with the backend systems. Entire network does encryption, SAF gateway, and TLS and SSL. Natural One, you heard a little bit from Luciano on that. Again, secured connection, password protection, encrypting password, DevOps for that code migration, and the NDV encryption and long passwords are currently available. And then lastly, app links, integration, integrated security, role-based authentication, RPC, security, and pass tickets will be available in the next release. And I know we are going a little over. Did just want to talk and include these slides about Adabase security on ZOS, that data in flight and data at rest. You have options for those. You need to do both. Same thing is true for Linux, Adabase on Linux, data in flight, data at rest with encryption. And then one of the things that you'll see is Zero Trust working, and that is the Adabase auditing tool for ZOS. You get to see everything that happened in the database world. So it's that post analysis thing. And with that, I am going to turn it back over to Becky, unless there are questions.
I don't think so. But thank you, Bob. And I know that was a really, really, really fast presentation with a lot of information in it. And as always, for any of these sessions, if there's something of interest to you, you can always reach out to any one of us at Software AG, and we will be glad to schedule a more in-depth discussion about any of these topics, especially security.
Yeah, Becky,
we're dealing with that all the time.
And I'm sorry, I did forget to say at the end, we do health checks with you all, and we can do those around security. We can do security-focused health checks to ensure that you are supporting Zero Trust. Sorry.
Yep. Thank you guys. The next session, I'm going to just jump right into it, is Kurt Hansen's going to be presenting, but in the background, if you have any questions, the entire Adabas Natural support team from Denver is sitting there watching the chat. So if you have questions, type them in and they'll answer them immediately through the chat box. So Kurt, go ahead. It's all yours.
Okay. So as Becky said, I'm Kurt Hansen. I'm Senior Director in Global Support. Been with the company for 37 years. And before then, I actually worked with Adabas and Natural as a DBA. So what we're going to talk about today is with Adabas and Natural in TireX, and we're going to touch a little bit on the SAG installer and the update manager, different ways to try to determine what is going on when you're running into a problem. Like when a database crashes, you're having a connectivity issue, just certain functions stop working. What are some of the tools we use or when you're working with support, or you might be able to use on your own and determine what your issue is. So we're going to look at different logging and tracing options against the different products. Some are documented in the respective product manuals. If there are, I have links in the slides. So when you download these later, you can go and jump right to and get the detailed information on it. They won't be in the slides. But some of what we're going to show you are not documented. They're usually tools that are used when you're working with global support. And but now we're going to share them with you. The handout, when you download it, will be a PDF. I'm going to pull from another screen here just to give you an idea. The slides, we basically say, when to use it, what you're going to generate it, or going to be generated. And if it's not documented in the manual, what I'm talking about, for instance, tracing on Natural Linux or Windows, you'll see more notes below, and then we're actually going to provide them. So when you download this PDF, the presenter notes will actually be included. And this is where you're going to want to look if, in fact, this particular tracing option is not documented. So as Becky said, members of my team are going to be monitoring the chat. So if you have any questions, hopefully we can address it in real time as we go along. And we're going to cover Natural on ZOS, LGW, Adabas, and TireX, and then some of the logging that's done with SAG installer and this software update manager. So with that, we'll just jump right into Natural on ZOS. Okay. All of you who've been around and been on the mainframe know the classic, and that is dblog, test dblog, where you can trace Adabas calls that Natural is issuing. You can snapshot on response codes. You can look at the interrogate Adabas control blocks that are being sent. It's a good way if you're running into a problem with your application to turn on logging, and sometimes we might ask you to do that also. So that's just to kick us off. On ZOS, you can actually trace the Natural development server. It's in the NDV configuration parameters. There's a trace level and trace filters. And some of you who are old school will see that there's actually bit settings that are used when you set the filter up. And you can set multiple bits on, depending on what you want to see. And it can be very robust, but it traces calls to and from the NDV server. If you're getting a Natural error, you can determine why. Maybe the server is terminated unexpectedly. And again, with a lot of these, it's going to be when you're working with support, and we're going to ask you to turn this tracing on. And then we give you little hints here. We write to a specific DD name, which should be in the NDV server startup. And in this particular case with NDV tracing, and we're not consistent, obviously, in a lot of our tracing, but you can actually scan on print error, and it might take you right to what it is. You might be able to resolve the issue without reaching out, but if you need to, by all means. Next up, tracing natural communication between the natural development server and natural one, which was spoken to before, how you natural one, obviously to connect to the mainframe and your different system files up there, you use the NDB server. This is not listed in the documentation, so there are more notes below on how to invoke it. This is rather unusual. From the natural command line, you actually type in trpro tp trace, and it'll pop up a little box, and you set the tracing on your trace level you want. It's actually going to create a member in a natural library of your choosing on the DB ID and file number, usually into fuser, and then that's where the tracing information will be held, and you can go in and take a look at it. Natural tracing, the profiler. We've had a utility available for a long time called sysrdc. I personally believe it's a little cumbersome, a little intrusive trying to get it set up, get it tied into natural, working with it, getting the output. But a while back, we actually introduced the natural profiler utility. It is very powerful in collecting data at different touch points. Again, I have links to the documentation. This presentation is basically just to make you aware of what is available. But one thing I want to show in the documentation is how powerful the profiler is. You can do tracing on session initialization, termination, load, starting of programs, before and after the call, terminal IOs, natural statements, RPC messages, etc. So you get the idea of what you can do by using the natural profiler utility. It's available in both tracing in batch and online, and there's different sections in the documentation to get you going there. Mainly profile parameters, you set RDC equals on, and you set an RDC size of a buffer, and that's pretty much it. And then start collecting data. Tracing the natural ZOS RPC server. You've been able to do the RPC server tracing, but it used to require cycling of the server, I believe. But with natural 9.2.1 and above, we actually have within the natural sys RPC utility that you can start and stop tracing of the RPC server. It will be written out into the console log of the RPC server itself. And we give you more information right here. But again, it's a little more flexible than it used to be in the past to trace the RPC server. Natural on Linux, LW. There is an undocumented function called nat_trace. What is this? It's basically test DB log on the mainframe is nat trace on LW. Gives you the similar things, allows you to see the natural code, the database calls that are being executed, snap database control blocks, maybe look for non-zero response codes, etc. We give you a lot more information on how to set it up, invoke. There's different values, different settings that you can have, depending on what you want to trace, what you want to see in the output. Same thing with natural for Windows. This exact same slide. There's two different slides. When you download this later, reason why is in the notes section that you'll see. It's invoked a little differently if you're on Windows versus Linux. Natural, the NCTR natural nucleus trace. This is a little different, where the nat trace was giving you tracing on the Adabase calls that are going to and from. This is actually allows you to trace or get information on natural functions such as printers, IO that's going on, work files, errors that are going on. You get a lot information concerning like library name, object name, line number, level number of the issues or what's being executed. Give you a lot more information, but a very powerful tracing function that's available. The PAL trace. Okay, Natural One. So a lot of customers now are using Natural One as their main natural editor, and there are ways to trace using the PAL trace. Again, another undocumented function normally used when you're working with support. It is almost always used in conjunction with the TR Pro trace that we saw with the NDB server, and it's to help troubleshoot connectivity problems of natural application issues against the NDB server. So again, a lot of times when you contact global support, you're having a problem with Natural One, and the NDB server will probably ask you to turn tracing on both ends, both on the NDB server and on Natural One itself, so we get a bigger picture, hopefully get us to a root cause fairly quickly. Natural LW has its profiler tracing also, not as, I want to say it's not an application invoked profiler as we saw on the mainframe. It is a natural parameter, which has subparameters. It is documented in the manual on tracing under Windows or tracing under Linux. But again, it can be used to monitor the internal process flow of natural applications. But one of the also nice features, it'll actually profile or trace code coverage within an application. So you can see how things are flowing, if it's what you had intended to do, or how did I get to this area of my code. RPC server under Linux and Windows is available. It's a dynamic parameter that is available to switch on and off, almost the same as we saw on the mainframe, to trace RPC issues. It's a little different on Windows and on Linux, but it is available and it is documented in the manual. So now switching over to Adabas. Of course, on the mainframe and on Linux, on Windows, everybody knows protection logging and command logging. Protection logging, also, obviously, it's to save off in case you have to recover the database. Command logging, if you want to see what's going on with the access to the different files. What some people don't realize is we actually provide utilities in which you can interrogate the protection log and command log. And we provide them on both ZOS, and we also provide them on Linux and Windows. Linux and Windows, it's Ada PLP and Ada CLP. And also to interrogate or to check and run reports on commands or to interrogate the command logs, there's Adabas Review. It's been around for a long time and it's greatly be enhanced. I saw on a previous presentation, we just released Review 531. And then we also have Adabas Auditing. Is it used for debugging purposes? No, but for tracing, as I think Jeff Cott had said, if you want to know what's going on in the database, who's touching, who's updating, what files, what fields, what values, who did it, Adabas Auditing will cover all of that for you. So Adabas on Linux and Windows. There are ways to trace the Adabas nucleus should it crash. TCP failures, Ada Opera utility has an issue. It is documented in the manual on setting up a PT trace. And again, a lot of times it's when you're working with global support or development that will ask for this. And there's different logging levels that can be set. It's always recommended that you have to set up a temp directory where you're going to write the output to. And just a little hint here, it's always recommended to have this set. If it's not sent, it will go to a default directory. We find that also people turned on some tracing, but they have no idea where the output went, and we have to go and take a look and try to determine that. Adabas Manager that was touched on, we just released 9.2 with a lot of new functionality. In general, Adabas Manager logging is always on, and that particular logging is you're having authentication issues at the sign-on to Adabas Manager. You can't get in. Just go out and look into this particular directory. You'll find a file, and in most cases it'll tell you or show you what's going on and why you're having an issue. So troubleshooting entire network usage with Adabas Manager. So mentioned before, I think in one of the other presentations, with Adabas Manager via entire network, you then handshake with the mainframe. If you're having connectivity issues involving that, whether it's the entire network server, the kernels, clients, the Adabas directory server, there's a lot of moving parts in the area of Adabas Manager. And what's nice in Adabas Manager is in the menu screens, you can go to Manage Network, go to Trace Options, and you can easily set them. You don't have to set other variables in config or any files. You can set your trace level. In most cases, if you're working with my team, we'll have you trace everything, but you can get a little more granular if you know specifically you're having a connectivity issue and you don't want all the other information in your trace file. If we go back here, there's also a client configuration tab. And here's where you set the level of tracing you want, but importantly, we don't have it filled in here, but the log directory that you would actually write to. So with Adabas Manager to trace or try to debug issues, some really nice tools, easy to use, and hopefully get to a resolution quickly. The Adabas REST server, the REST administration, it's not listed in the documentation, but there is a debugging that's available. It is used to, if you have an issue connecting to Adabas databases, or you're having an issue connecting to the entire network kernels, the Adabas REST server sits between it and Adabas Manager. So by turning on debugging with the REST server, you can get to the root of the problem. Entire network. Okay, and those who've had worked with entire network over the years realize that a while back, to turn tracing on and off, you had to cycle the task, and then it wrote out a lot of data, so you had to be really careful, then bring it back down again. Now, I can't remember, it's been a while, but you can dynamically turn tracing on and off. You can be specific to the line driver if you have multiple, whether it's VTAM, channel to channel, TCP/IP. Again, it's done via operator commands. On the mainframe on ZOS, it's written to a file called netprint. And instead of going to DD asterisk, if you have it, I would put it in your JCL now, but you might want to point it to a data set. It will create significant output, but you can dynamically turn it on and off. If you don't have the netprint file, it's going to send a DD print, and then that can get a little busy along with all the DD print information that's being written besides this tracing. Network on the LW. We saw this earlier with Adabas Manager. There's values you can send. You can trace network. You can do it manually. It does require a restart of the entire network server. So that's just a heads up. It is available and it is documented in the manual. And then you can also trace the client. In a lot of cases, when you approach support, you're having an issue with network, we're going to ask you to do tracing on both the client level and also on the server level, so we can see both sides to see where the issue is. Now on to Adabas SQL Gateway. Adabas SQL Gateway does have enable a server trace. It's only going to be for the current user, and it's going to be much like we saw with the DB log. It's going to give you detail basically on the Adabas commands that are being, or the Adabas control blocks that are being written. Actually, we go back, sorry about that. It's basically all the Adabas commands, the buffers, both readable and in hexadecimal format. And again, as you can imagine, if you're doing a lot of commands, it could be significant output, but it will include all the buffers before and after. And then just as an example, how you would do it, you can use a tool like Infonaut just to start off. And again, for that specific session, to enable a server trace, and then you can use the same function to turn it back off or disable it. The event replicator target adapter. So with replication, in most scenarios, you have your Reptor nuke on the mainframe talking to entire X, then to TCP/IP over to ART. And then ART then will talk to your DBMS downstream, say Oracle, MySQL SQL Server or something. So there's a lot going on there, and there is a way that you can troubleshoot by turning on different log levels. We give you a little bit more notes below on how to do that, but also what's interesting, and it's in the manual also, we actually have a session or a section that says before you call support. Rather interesting that you actually say, hey, we're going to need the SQL rep log, and we're going to need the log4j2 XML file. We actually list what we're going to need. You open the log, you don't have what we're going to ask for it, but if you provide it in advance with any issue that you run into, that would be great. Entire X. Well, with entire X, there's a lot of handshaking that goes on between the stub, the kernel, possibly other stubs. When we're working with you, we'll probably be asking you to turn tracing on in each of the different touch points. Broker kernel itself has different sections or different places you might want to trace, whether it's at the broker, you're tracing security, you're tracing Adabas calls, network, TCP/IP. What is it that you want to trace? You could turn them all on or just be very selective. And then on the stubs, also there are environment variables that are used to turn these on and off or to collect the information that we have. And you can see the different types of servers that are supported. This is just an example. This is like within on the mainframe. And those of you who support NtireX will see the different sections in the broker startup. What do you want to do? What trace level? And it's independent, or you can trace all of them at the same time. We give you a few hints of when they're, some classics that come in are the 7474. So waiting on a timeout, great to do some tracing. We'll figure that out. And so when it's useful, when it's not useful. It will write to a DD card. So depending on where that's being pointed to is where you're going to find the information. Okay, the software AG installer. So anyone who's been working with Linux or Windows or with Natural One is familiar with the SAG installer. SAG installer does have logging if you're running into issues. Basically, when you fire up the SAG installer, you're going to get a screen, and down at the bottom there'll be a button that'll say Advanced Options. If you click it, you'll see the different tabs, but there is a logging tab. I think the default might be Info, but when working with my team, we'll ask you to turn verbose logging on, and then you'll fill out this field that's kind of behind here, the log file, where you're going to be writing it, and that's what we're going to need to look at. If you have it, maybe you take a look at it, and in most cases, if you would scan for app_error, it's going to take you to, and you're going to be able to figure out what your issue is. One thing that we've seen that a lot of people are running into are connectivity issues. And so we're listing here the different URLs, the different servers that the software update manager and the SAG installer work with on our end. So these URLs need to be whitelisted, or you may run into issues. And then the software update manager. If the software update manager is always logging, so if you run into an issue, applying a fix, trying to uninstall a fix, we're always writing. We have there's a couple of different directories, but we are always logging information. So you don't need to turn this on and off. So if you're having a sum problem, we usually will ask you for these logs in these directories. Okay, when sending diagnostics to software AG, we want to be respectful, and this goes back to that last presentation. Confidentiality of our customer and the data we take very seriously, but we strongly recommend that you not transmit personal or confidential data unless it's absolutely necessary. And those of you who have opened up incidents know that when you open the incident, you're able to drag and drop files when you're working in the incident management portal that are less than 30 megabytes. But anything that's sensitive or greater than 30 megabytes, we just ask you, go ahead and put it in the secure attachment store. And one last little note, all the different trace files, everything you see in the data sets that are produced, the logging files, et cetera, none of those are cleaned up. So it might be something you keep an eye on. If you constantly have logging going, it's going to start taking up space, and it's going to be your responsibility basically to clean up these files on your end. I know that was kind of fast. I don't know if we have any questions, but basically when you download, all the information will be there. There'll be links to the documentation. For those tracing options that aren't documented, they're usually tools when working with support. We're giving the information on how you can, basically what we would send to you to invoke the tracing that we're being asked for. And that's it.
Hey, Kurt, thank you. Helen answered some questions in the chat and things like that, so we're all good there. I don't know about all of you guys, but my head is spinning. Kurt, that was a lot of information, but it's good because even though I've been working with the products for 40 years, I didn't know some of this tracing stuff. So I've learned stuff, and the fact that we're all going to get these PowerPoints, that's going to be a good thing.
Yeah, look in the notes pages. We provided them. If you don't see a notes pages, look on the slide itself. The hyperlinks will work. It'll take you right to the documentation. And then if you have questions, although my team is going to kick me, go ahead and open an incident and ask us your question.
Okay, yeah, perfect. And we're still running a little bit behind, but not too bad. But
tried.
I did no, you did fine. You did fine, Kurt. I am going to take a second here, and I sat there last night and I printed all the attendees, and then I chopped them up into little teeny pieces of paper so that I can randomly select a couple of people out of here to get an Amazon gift card. So let me put on my reading glasses because we're all getting old. Now, this is bizarre. This is bizarre. I just pulled this out. Nancy had been putting stuff in the chat earlier. And Nancy, I pulled your name out of the thing. So Nicole will be contacting you via email, and Nancy works for Franchise Tax Board out in California. Nicole will be contacting you later about the gift card, the Amazon gift card. And Nancy says, yay, okay. And so then the next one, and hopefully you're on, still on, or are on. And if I mispronounce your name, please excuse me. But Sandhya Shikar works for state of New Jersey. If you're on, maybe type something in the comments or something. Yep, there you go. There you go. So we've got 2 winners of our Amazon gift cards. What we are going to do is it's now actually time for a break. We all need a bio break. So we're going to take 5 minutes. It's 12:30. We're going to come back at 12:35 and start up again. Okay? Take my glasses off so I can see without everything being blurred. So see you guys in 5 minutes. Thank you. Okay, it's 12:35. I hope everybody's getting back from their break. Our next session is a real life customer example. I'm going to let Patrick Gould from Software AG introduce Dan DeAngelis and explain what this session is all about. So Patrick, take it away.
Yeah, can everybody hear me?
Can. Go ahead, Patrick.
Okay. Dan, if you just want to share your slide as I talk, I will just be introducing you. So, hi everybody, my name's Patrick, and I welcome you to our next session. I would like to introduce Dan and Shel DeAngelis, who I've worked with, from Asymmetric Strategy Partners. This particular session will show how modular modernization in action and cover that while many organizations understand the need to move their data and applications and make them more accessible in a multi-cloud environment, they also know that their existing systems hold their core customer data and applications. So they need to know the new modular modernization, we struggle with that word, architecture is bulletproof before embarking on the journey. Dan and Shel will now share how a state government achieved this goal. Over to Dan.
So I'm actually going to tee off, Patrick. Thank you for the introduction.
Good.
No worries. I am Shelley DeAngelis, and I'm the founder and CEO of Asymmetric Strategy Partners. And I want to thank Software AG for inviting us to speak today so that we have the opportunity to share with you how we're able to bring value to our client, Iowa, which was Health and Human Services. My partners and I provided the CEO with a strategically defined architectural services in both business and technology transformation using innovation and human emergent-based design. So as the product architect, my responsibility is to make sure that all of the aspects of the program or the product are innovated and implemented in Iowa. And I'm going to hand this over now to Asymmetric Strategy Senior Partner, Daniel DeAngelis. He's the Senior Partner of Design. And he is going to walk you through the technology approach that we implemented in Iowa, which allowed them to technically contain architecturally their legacy system. So I'm over to Dan now. Thank you. You're still in mute, Dan.
I apologize. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah, Dan, we can hear you. Go ahead.
All right, perfect. Thank you. And everybody can see the presentation?
Sure can.
Awesome. So thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Shelley. As Shelley mentioned, I am the Senior Partner for Design here at Asymmetric Strategy Partners. And we were engaged by the state of Iowa to lead their legacy modernization efforts, moving off of the mainframe using where they're using ADSO IDMS as an application on the mainframe for their Children and Family Services department. They wanted to modernize and fully decommission the mainframe legacy environment. So, as I'm sure all of you know, those are very complex integrated environments that sometimes lack documentation. They're not user-friendly. They're sometimes very old, from 30 years ago, and it presents a bunch of challenges. So we help them define the modernization use case, which we've captured some of that here. It's an old system. It's not really user-friendly. You can't work within agile environments to modernize it. If you're working directly on the mainframe with older technologies, and if you're making changes to the mainframe, that typically those are, as a late adopter, the technologies that are available, which would be XML-based, SOAP-based. Those are not really useful in a multi-cloud environment, as Patrick was saying. And typically, the biggest driver goes back to the next-gen workforce is not prepared to work off of mainframes. So, and that's in our experience led to be led these products to be, not sustainable. Everybody knows that the developer community is aging out and is retiring over the next 10 to 15 years. And so we need to get these systems modernized as quickly as possible. And that impacts the hiring and employee retention because the resources just aren't available to modernize the systems any longer, and the next gen workforce doesn't want to use it. So what are the common challenges we've seen? They're highly complex and coupled. They're the system of record, which means you have to migrate a system of record from on-prem to the cloud. They depend on decades-old architecture and design approaches. They require significant costly independent design, architectural and development efforts. The data is very old and fixed length and different data types and so on and so forth. So that requires complex transformations. And these existing systems, most of the time, they lack sufficient design, implementation, business process documentation in order for you to understand the scope of your modernization effort. The mid to late adopters of scaled agile principles, they struggle to understand the concepts of the business cases, business processes, and personas. So what is the ASP modernization architecture and approach? Put very simply, it's an approach of containment. So what we prefer to do is contain the legacy or older environments where we're not making any modifications to the code or to those systems whatsoever. So we understand the migration to the cloud and modernization is a modernization not just of the technologies, but it's a modernization of the business processes that implement the technology. So not only do our customers struggle mightily with the older technology, but the limitations of the business processes that define the user flow and the application flow through the mainframe applications just have not been able to keep up with the changing business environments and the business processes. And what we've seen in Iowa, as an example, is that they have decades-old business processes that the mainframe captures. However, their new system that we're designing with them, they want to expand those business processes to capture even more data and share that information and that data in new ways. And they're very limited with what they can do to on the mainframe with the ADSO IDMS application. So put very simply, what our approach is using the Software AG toolset, it allowed us to come up with this very elegant approach to modernization that allowed us to use the containment techniques architecturally to keep the mainframe environment contained and require no modifications to that mainframe environment during the modernization process, which is a 3 to 5 year process. So at the top right, you can see before modernization, a human being is using the mainframe green screens. During the modernization, the personas that are selected for each of the release gates is transitioned to the modernized app as the features are released and the integrations for those features are modernized. So you see the human being is using a tablet, they're using web-based responsive application that's hosted in the Microsoft Azure cloud using Microsoft Azure native components. And where we've used very successfully the Software AG toolset of AppLinks and Connex is to introduce robotic process automation, or RPA, as a enterprise design pattern. And to support that pattern, the underlying technology is Software AG's AppLinks product. So that allows us to go in, create robotic process automation services, RESTful services that reside on-prem. They can be called from the cloud every time the legacy system needs to be updated. So a user changes something in the cloud, and then that kicks off an RPA call, which kicks off the AppLinks call and goes through, and effectively a robot uses the 3270 emulator to type in to the mainframe through the green screens whatever data changed or was added. And so what that does is it allows the legacy system to remain contained. It does not need to be changed in any way. And the human being is typing things the new way in the cloud and saving things the new way in the cloud. And the robotic process automation is simply updating the legacy environment as needed with the data that the human being just entered. Once that's completed and you've completed your modernization effort, you can fully decommission the older system because you no longer have to maintain the robots or use the robots to maintain it. So this is the overall design of the synchronization and reconciliation. Top right, the cloud product app, the persona, whoever that is, creates a new person record as an example in the user experience in the cloud. That uses a microservices backend with WebQ worker pattern in Iowa, and that saves that off into the Azure scaled SQL instance. What happens at that point is an event is published to an enterprise event grid that says there needs to be a legacy update and synchronization. That kicks off a cloud function, which is an Azure function for Iowa. And the first step of that function is to call the Software AG app links create person service, web service. It's a RESTful call. So it calls it and it says, as an example, here's the first name, last name. It sends all of the data in JSON format to app links. App links then opens, or with the connection pooling, will utilize one of the open connections to the mainframe 3270 connection. It will take that out of the pool. It will execute the script that is included in the app link script to perform this particular function. In this case, it's create a new person. And that will then type everything. The robotic process automation will then type everything into the mainframe's green screen. And that allows the green screen to execute all of the procedural code behind that screen. Again, completely contained. The mainframe doesn't know any difference. It thinks that a human being just typed it in and hit save. That then stores the data into the mainframe's data store, whether that be IDMS, Adabas, DB2, flat file, doesn't matter. There is going to be a persisted data change to the underlying data on the mainframe. So the second step of the cloud function is once it gets the 200 response or an error response from app links, if there's an error, it will put it into the event grid's retry and then it'll notify support. But let's say that it received a 200 OK response on the REST call from app links. The second step that we use in Iowa is to call Software AG's Connex platform. Again, it's a REST API call. When we tell it, okay, now synchronize the data from that particular table or structure. That Connex then retrieves the data, sends it to the function, and the function can then compare what was requested to be changed to what the actual underlying data says on the mainframe. If those two match, that record is considered to be reconciled, and the reconciliation flag is set in the cloud to say, not only is the data stored in the cloud, but it's fully legacy reconciled. So the performance that we were able to achieve in Iowa, once we got the proof of concept installed and configured and tweaked through our testing, we were able to configure JMeter with 50,000 concurrent users, simulating changes to 15 mainframe green screens across 32 data entities in the IDMS database. And the environment included a single Software AG AppLink server configured with 25 connections in the connection pool, and one Connex server using the REST API for data sync execution. Both of those products can be configured, obviously, in HA and DR for horizontal scaling if necessary. The mainframe environment in Iowa has a total capacity of 366 MIPS across all of the logical units and utilizes Microsoft Azure native cloud platform for the Vision environment, which is the target state environment. Each concurrent user executed 500 randomly chosen CRUD functions during the test scenario. And what we found was the performance of our approach completed the full ACID synchronization transaction using the Software AG toolset between 0.2 and 0.6 seconds, depending on the complexity of the CRUD script. What did that allow us to do? Well, it allowed us to deliver an enterprise target state platform design and implementation for the state of Iowa's Health and Human Services for their Children and Family Services agency. It allows us to apply human-based design approach so that we can meet with the product owners, drive out the new business processes and everything that's necessary in order to drive business value to their agency. It's focused on persona-based emergent design of product features. So it allows us to take the persona, figure out what they need to do, and then we do that. And where we specialize is then taking that and integrating that into the robotic process automation, because there's two personas now. It's the human persona who's using the future state or target state environment that we're designing and building for them. And there's the robotic process automation where the robot has to be configured to type in things when necessary. So there's multiple personas during the modernization process. It's driven by business cases and business capabilities, obviously, and those are all defined by our product owners. And it allows us to apply these enterprise patterns during this containment period for the system being modernized. And keeps the agency from having to do all of the mainframe changes. Again, previous legacy modernization approaches where let's build a bunch of services, SOAP services on the mainframe, and then you have to configure ZOS, passkeys, and all that craziness in order to make all of that happen. We like to take this approach of, no, we'll just come in through the green screens through 3270 connections, and we will keep the system contained while we modernize in the cloud. That allows us to prioritize and strategically plan everything in order to take on those personas and make sure that we can match not just the human persona, but the robotic process automation persona within the software AG environment. And it allows us to drive out product roadmaps as the personas are prioritized and their features and their business cases are effectively dealt with. What we found is this is very cost effective and highly scalable, because as we're modernizing in Iowa, what we found is there's a lot of opportunities for reusable design patterns and reusable components as we design them. And that allows also the updating of RPA, not just to one source system, but to multiple source systems at any given time. The benefits of our approach: we utilize safe principles. It requires no detailed technical documentation because we're not looking at the old, we're looking at the new. The only time we look at the old is in order to create the scripts for the robotic process automation. It utilizes human-based user experience design, which means that the new target state is highly intuitive and easy to use, which attracts younger workers, and also it allows for us to find developers pretty much anywhere we need to. Legacy system is architecturally contained. It requires no modifications to the existing code or the technology environment due to the robotic process automation that's facilitated, again, through the Software AG's product set. And it utilizes the Strangler Fig pattern for business and technology modernization, which allows a phased migration over time of these personas without fear of breaking legacy integrations because of the robotic process automation. And that's pretty much it.
Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. That's amazing. And as Dan mentioned, you know, this is our first time working with Dan and Shelley. So at the state of Iowa, it's been a good experience for all of us. So thank you, Dan. Thank you, Shelley. Appreciate it very much. So our next session is how to create or how to adopt a hybrid architecture. And Mark Colburn, who's one of the account executives for Adabas Natural in North America, and Dimos Economikos, who is part of our systems engineers group, will be handling this. So I'll let you guys explain what you're going to be talking about for the next few minutes.
Sure.
ahead, Mark.
So I'm Mark Colburn. I actually started as a computer operator with IBM way back on August of 1980 on a 3155 mainframe. A variety of different roles with IBM, then moved over to Oracle. spent some time in leadership roles there, and then moved on to Dell EMC, and actually ran, at the time it was EMC, their entire federal group. So I've had a nice, I guess, mixture of architectures and computing approaches in my tenure. So as we kind of talk about hybrid architecture and application modernization, I couldn't piggyback more off of what Dan just went through. So, you know, whether you're a global airline that needs to expose crew scheduling and reservation systems through more modern approaches, or a large financial institution that might be doing all of their trading and ERP capabilities in the mainframe, the mainframe is still uniquely positioned in terms of extremely high availability. It's designed for 0 downtime. Still has some of the best security options. Again, piggybacking on the earlier presentation around zero trust available in the industry. And, you know, at the end of the day, from a cost-effective standpoint, when you have very, very heavy transaction loads that need very, very high levels of performance, there's still not a better capability out there. But as Dan points out, when you look at that capability and then the ability to be agile and do heavy analytic workloads, that's where the cloud comes in. So today, what Adabas will be talking about and what we've embraced with many of our customers is the very technologies that Dan was just referring to. It's really unlocking that and utilizing that hybrid architecture, as opposed to most of the folks that have decided the mainframe is not for them have already either moved off or in process of moving off. Others, and again, that's what we're going to embrace in today's presentation, is the idea of then what is successful application modernization in this day and age for us. For many of our customers, it's embracing a hybrid architecture where they're going to take advantage of that dependability and high performance of the mainframe, but then utilize the cloud for cloud data warehouses, maybe predictive analytics, those kinds of things. So with no further ado, Adabas, I'm just going to turn it over to you to get a little more specificity of some of the technologies that Dan was referring to earlier. Thank you.
My name is application modernization.
Adabas, we can't hear you.
How about now, Becky?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Okay, something wrong with my microphone. Okay, so what I'm going to present is a way to modernize your applications using some of the technology that we have, but also by building a lot on what Dan said earlier and some of the patterns that Dan mentioned. You could easily use using products that you're already familiar with. So if we look at the diagram that I have on the screen right now, we have a system of record, which is your IBM mainframe, and we can modernize or incrementally modernize based on screens. We can work with the screens, and that's what Dan spoke about with AppLinks, where we wrap around the green screens and expose information as an API. We can also modernize based on programs. We could use Assembler, COBOL, PL1, Natural, and expose those as APIs for use in any modern application. Or we can interface directly with mainframe data, DB2, vSAM, IMS, Adabas, and have a front end, be it Java, Python, Angular, communicate with the system of record based on a standard SQL instruction. A very simplified diagram. AppLinks works at the screen level. EntireX will be at the program level, and Connects will be at the database level. Now, using one approach doesn't preclude you from using a different approach. You can mix and match them as you go. You might start off with the AppLinks approach, add Connects as what Dan has done with the state of Iowa, or you can use a combination of all three. The first use case that I'm going to show you is taking a mainframe screen, a green screen as we call it, and we will do what's called an instant web, where we, with minimal effort, expose this green screen as a GUI front end to our users. I'm an old mainframe programmer, and for me to do this was very, very simple and straightforward. I could take this green screen and make it look like a modern front end with a drop down, with a date selector and a few other things. I have a construct browse screen where I browse the vehicles file, and we could wrap that around some applinks modernization code and make it look like a modern table with a column sortable with a select column, and the PF keys all work backwards and forwards. So it's a pretty quick and easy win for you if you want to quickly modernize your application, make it look modern without making any changes to the back end. So let me show you how this works in real life. This is my green screen, and show you what it looks like on the mainframe. This is the same green screen that I'm communicating with. We have an Applink server that is monitoring the communications. So right now, the mainframe thinks I'm just a user that's waiting for information. So you can see I have add, clear, get, delete, blah, blah, all these kind of actions. And if we go back to our application, you can see I've converted those into a drop down. I have a date picker, but let's look for a specific record, and I'll be using the same one during this presentation. It'll be a Tesla Model S because I like Teslas. Oops, got a timeout. Apologies for that. So there's the Tesla Model S, and to show you what it looks like on the green screen. So from the mainframe point of view, it's just a user coming in and asking for information for a record, right? So what we can do is we can do a modify. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but we can modify, and we can do a date picker and change the date and so forth. What we can also do is do the browse, and I want to show you what that looks like. And yeah, you can see we have the browse, and we can have select, modify on different columns. This is a standard construct generated browse select. And you can see with very minimal effort, we're able to make this look like a modern GUI table. So let's go back, we select this guy. And we come back, and there's the record. And I just want to show you one more time what it looks like from this point of view. The next part of the demo, we're going to do the same thing, but this is more like what Dan is doing in Iowa, what we're doing with Dan in Iowa, where we're going to wrap this green screen into an API and make it callable from a, in my case, a Python code. I think in Dan's case, they're using Java. So whatever language that you're familiar with, you could make that work for you. So just to show you what we're doing is we have an Applink server. We're making available a SOAP endpoint, and we are calling that from a Python code. So we have a Python client. You can use REST also, but in this case, I have a REST API that communicates with my Applink server. Applink server then communicates with the mainframe. It wraps the mainframe green screen into a callable API and passes back the information to my Python front end. So we'll do the same thing again, Tesla Model S, oops. And in my case, it took 0.46 seconds. Dan was getting 0.2 seconds. I think I'm a little bit of a slower communication link. What we can also do in the next few demos, we're going to show you how to create a PDF from this information. But what we can do is, I can generate a PDF. And there it is, the information coming from a mainframe into a PDF. And then just to show you what the Python code looks like, I have the URL, and then I do a call to that URL, and I then interrogate or introspect the payload coming back, and I display it on the screen. Pretty straightforward. So what we've done here is we've wrapped a green screen and exposed that as an API. The advantages of this approach, as Dan mentioned earlier, is that you don't have to rewrite your business logic, spend a lot of time understanding the business logic. A lot of the folks that wrote those applications 30 years ago have moved on to other great jobs. And so that information and that knowledge base isn't there anymore, but we can still reuse that business logic without reinventing the wheel and make that information available. So all the security, all the business rules are still embedded in your application, and you're accessing the data from a GUI application. So the next use case is using EntireX. Now this one is slightly different. This is where we have a web service. In my case, it's Python again. We're communicating with EntireX, which then calls a natural subprogram. It could be PL1, it could be any language that you use on the mainframe. And we interact with that to access the data. In that program, you can embed business logic. This is for the situation where you want to do something that your existing green screens don't already provide for you. You might want to build different rules into your application. So the way it looks is I have a Python client that calls a web service, which is a SOAP web service in this case, that then communicates with a mainframe, calls a natural subprogram. The natural subprogram reads a record from the vehicles file, and then it returns it back to my Python front end. So let's use the old Tesla example again. And yeah, we retrieve back the data, but notice this time we have a vehicle image, and that vehicle image is coming back from the mainframe stored as a binary large object. So, you can now store information on the mainframe, and it's expand what you can provide to your users. You can use your system of record as a, let's say, a giant file server in the sky, or system of record where you can store not only text information, but also binary information. Again, we can create the PDF as we did before, but this time we have the picture of the Model S. There it is. The natural subprogram, it's a standard natural subprogram. It takes an input, does something with the data, and sends it back in the PDA. Those folks who are familiar with natural, this is a very, very simple program. You can build all kinds of business logic into this, security rules, whatever you need to do. Very, very straightforward. Python code, here I have my SOAP WSDL. I call the server, and it returns back my payload, and this is the WSDL for those of you familiar with the WSDL. You can see that's fairly complex, but it provides all the information back to you that my program can introspect. So that's EntireX. Next, we move to Connects. Connects is a different concept. Again, now we're working at the data level. So from this diagram, we have a Java client, in my case, a Python client, that communicates via ODBC, or you could use JDBC, to the Connects adapter that then communicates with Adabas on the mainframe. You could also do Oracle DB2, vSAM, whatever. We support 150 databases, so whichever you do, but in this case, it's an Adabas database with a vehicles file. The way we look at this is I have a Python program that'll do a select. Then I do an ODBC call to my Connects server that talks to the Connects database adapter on the mainframe, reads the vehicles file as a select statement, and returns back to my Python front end. So let's use Tesla again. And it returns back the graphic, the picture of the Tesla, and the information that we have on the mainframe. And here's the Python code. And the reason I'm showing this Python code is just how simple, how straightforward this is. It's a standard select. Those of you who are familiar with SQL, I mean, this is straightforward standard select. We have the registration number, and it returns back the data as a payload, not displayed as a pandas data frame. So those of you familiar with that. I want to show you one use case that I feel is might be quite useful to you, depending on how you think about integrating your application in the future. This use case is a theoretical use case where we have a user enters a member ID. Well, let me take a step back. The use case here is that we have a a contractor that needs to upload certification information to a system, the old green screen application isn't useful to people, the citizens. So to encourage citizen engagement, we can expose a mainframe green screen in a different way, where we can use a modern front-end language like Angular or ASP. We can communicate with the mainframe. We have a presentation layer then, which is your modern GUI front-end, and we get the user information. And then we ask the user, okay, please update your certification date and upload your certificate. And we upload that back to the mainframe. And the user has no idea that his information is going back to the mainframe. So I have pre-populated a member ID. I get the information from the mainframe. And here we have his name, his address, and this is coming from a file on the mainframe. And you can see that the certification date is the 7th of October. And we can change this to the 5th of this month, and then allow him to upload a file from his local drive. And I'm going to select one of those PDFs I created earlier on. And now, in this case, I'm not going to upload that PDF to the mainframe. I'm going to upload it to a local file on my machine. And we've updated the person certification date. And I have a little front. Let me just show you where that. Now I've created a local directory. I've prefixed the member number in front of the file, so you can implement this in any way you like. But the idea is that you can store a link to information on the mainframe and store the actual files, the PDFs, graphic files on a local server, or you can store that information on the mainframe. So I'm showing you two different flavors of achieving the same thing. And in this case, show you that I have a little browse here that can look at that information, and then we do a preview of that information. So for example, a manager might have to approve this application, and they can come and look and see, oh, citizen so-and-so has uploaded this information. Yeah, it's correct. We approve his application. So that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Demos and Mark. There is one question. I have to scroll back up a little bit because I can't see it now. Is app links, and this can go to Demos, Bob, Patrick, Eric, anybody. Is app links Software AG's version of ZOS Connect? And Mark Brokoff, welcome back, Mark. Said that AppLinks was developed by Software AG some years ago, and it's not directly related to ZOS Connect.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, I don't know if you want to add anything else, Patrick or Demos.
AppLinks is a screen scraper on steroids.
Yeah, I think it has more capabilities than ZOS Connect does, underlying with the web enablement, API enablement, the ability to do extra things as well.
And Demos, you got a lot of good feedback in the comments.
Oh, thank you.
So thank you, very good job. And most of us mainframe people, we don't know Python, or at least I don't. So it's always interesting for me to learn something new.
So my friend ChatGPT helped me a lot.
We're gonna have to do a session on Chat GPT and other things with the Adabas Natural world on our next user group. Okay, so
and Demos, I'd just like to thank you for getting us back on time.
Yes, exactly. I was like, ooh, we're back on time. So actually we're 1 minute ahead. So the next session is with Patrick Gould and Eric Wood of Software AG, part of our big old group of systems engineers. And they're going to talk to you about how you can create PDFs with Natural, both on the mainframe and in the Linux Windows world. Because, Demos kind of talked about creating PDFs, and they're going to actually show you how to do that. So take it away, guys.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Eric Wood, and I will be presenting with the captain of the A team, Patrick Gould, on on creating PDF with Natural. And I'm going to also keep us on time because I'm going to go through and talk as fast because I want our captain to do most of the talking on this presentation. So for the agenda here, we're going to be talking about creating PDF using entire connection and natural connection. And the other option is with Natural for Ajax and then with Natural RPC and with Python. So let's talk. Go in. Just get right into the conversation here, using entire connection and natural connection. Now, I believe a lot of you all have this product probably in your portfolio, and you're probably wondering, who's using this product? And it's here, but I know someone is using this product, but I don't know what it's being used for. So this product was introduced, like in the mid 1990s. It's Software AG's version of a terminal emulator. But of course, Software AG never just gives you a conventional product. We give you a product that has a lot more features and benefits than just your normal terminal emulator. This product not only allows you to have your PC talk directly to your host system, but you can talk to many host systems simultaneously at the same time, where these systems will be in different Windows sessions. It allows you to interact with data, to transfer data back and forth to these systems in one sophisticated step without worrying about doing you having to do the conversion of the data. It is automatically done by the tool. And the big main benefit of this is with our programmers, like our title said, I need this data in a PDF, or I need to have this data in a text file. So these products will allow you to do uploads and downloads of your data using Natural. So you can use a standard Natural program to download the data and put it in different formats, or you can actually, if you have data as a PC file, you can upload it to your host environment as well. So this is how it works. In your Natural environment, you need to go to sysfile to make sure that you have some of your work files set up as PC. You see some of the above those are my host work printer files as well, and work files, but also you want to set up some for PC files as well. In your Natural program, just a simple standard Natural program, there are a couple of options that you need to turn on to activate. First, you have to activate these PC files. It's by turning on a set control plus statement. So that activates and said, okay, I want to use these PC files within my Natural environment. And then I'm using my standard write statement, or I can do a print statement. There's also a PC download statement that you can use in a Natural program. And then you just format the data as you would normally format a regular report. And you execute this Natural program. And this can be done online. So when you execute this, it will give you a pop-up window saying that, all right, where do you want me to download this data? What the name of the file, and these are my destination options. I can set it as
Eric,
yes.
Eric, let me interrupt for a second. You're displaying, your display is not very visible. We can see the screen, but it's small. I don't know how you need to change your settings, Nicole, or anybody, if you know what Eric's doing.
Okay.
The screen's too small.
The
No, go to display
settings.
settings, do the drop down and select the other option. Yeah. Swap presenter view and slideshow.
There you go.
There you
Thank
go.
you. Yeah, we're having a hard time seeing that. I'm old. I got old eyes.
All right. So when the pop-up comes up, you give it the name of the file, and then you select your destination. If you check just file, it'll come as a text file. It also has the ability to invoke your Excel that is installed on that workstation that you're currently on, and it will actually invoke it and put this data into an Excel spreadsheet. And if you check in this option, I'm checking my printer, and I'm using my PDF software that I have installed on my PC as well. And then it just downloads, and this is my This creates my PDF file with the data that is from my mainframe environment. So it could be from DB2, vSAM, Adabas, or wherever. And this is the data that is stored, and this is the report that I'm generating from the data stored in those environments. But I can also, I get out of there. Of course, it never does what I want. And if I'm sophisticated enough, like Demos, I can use my PDF merge and merge my templates and take that raw data that I downloaded, and I can actually put it in a pretty nice formatted PDF file, just as quick and easy as that, and send it off to my customer that asked for the data in a PDF format. So with that said, I'm going to turn this over now to Captain of the A-Team, Patrick Gould.
Thank you, Eric. So I'm going to share my screen. I hope it works. And I'm going to go to good old Natural for Ajax. Can you guys all see my screen?
Yes, we can, Patrick.
Okay, so I am going to show you how Natural for Ajax can work with PDFs, and there's a couple of options there. So if I go into my Natural for Ajax demos, and remember, everybody can use Natural for Ajax if you have Natural One. It comes free, yes, free. All you have to do is use it. Of course, if you wanted to make it production one day, then you would probably need to purchase it from us. But I will now execute the demo program, the demo that comes with Natural for Ajax. And let's hope it all works. Live demos always tough. But yeah, you'll see I've got all the Natural for Ajax demos, and you'll see that Natural for Ajax can now handle non-responsive controls and responsive controls. The advantage of a responsive view is it can be used in mobile versions without much work. So these are all the new demos they have, but of course we're going to want to choose functions. There are so many demos out there, but the ones that contain PDF, yeah, we have charts and reports and whatever. I don't know what that did, but it wasn't right. So if I go to the report control, you'll see I have the ability to use a control in my page that I've created, and I now have a report. And if I wanted to fill the report, I would put data inside of the report. This, of course, is all natural in the background, nothing other than natural. And if I then wanted to pipe this out to a PDF, I could just press the PDF button, and this will now go out and create a PDF for me. This is with Natural for Ajax. There is one other option with Natural for Ajax. If I want to use a pop-up or a subpage or white spaces, etc., I can use this example here as something you'd want to see. So here again, I have a screen with boxes on it and grid tables. And if I generate the invoice here, it goes out and uses FOP in the background, and it can create a template and a PDF, and inside of the PDF is the data that is coming out of Natural. So that is the Natural for Ajax. Natural for Ajax is still very, very popular, used more in Europe than here in the USA. But we do have one very large customer now in the USA that is a payroll system, and they basically converted every single one of their payroll screens into a page layout. And now the end users come through the browser, and they can now modernize the needed pages that need beautiful GUIfication more than just the straight 3270 emulation, etc. They can make those changes pretty quickly. So something you want to know about, let us know. So the other options we have within, I'm going to close this page out. So this third option I'm going to show you in this presentation today is how we would do this with Natural. And this is straight Natural and IntireX. So what I'm going to show you today is Demos and ChatGPT did help us create this particular demo. What it does is I have information installed in Adabas, and I have using blobs, and I have a beautiful picture of myself inside of Adabas. So this here would be the sub-program that I'm going to be calling from Python. And it's going to, when I generate the IDL, it is going to create this particular IDL, and I have this set up as my in and this set as my out. And then I would generate a WSDL file, and I can now deploy this to the web services stack, and I could have Python build me a program based on the WSDL file with ChatGPT. I still know very, very little. So every time I need to do something, it's myself and Demos on the call, and we pipe it back into ChatGPT until we get an error-free program, and then we can execute it from the client in Python. So if I now go across to my Python program, and you can see here where I introduced the WSDL file. So that is now allowing me to call my natural subprogram to bring back my data with the input that I provide. And then I build the PDF inside of Python, and I present it back to the client. So if I go back out to my browser now, you will see that I have a get employee data. And just to show you it's live, it's probably going to get a 3009. It didn't, so I didn't have an Adabas time it. But basically, this allows me to input any emp ID that I have data for. And when I press the get employee data button, it comes through and it'll pick up the data from the natural subprogram. It will then also pick up the picture. So Entirex is a very, very mature way to work with blobs. I mean, as Demos said, I could either have this blob inside of Adabas, just we do that because we can, but often people will be storing that into a different data store and use some sort of key to match the two when they want to get the actual blob. But I do have a download button here, and you'll see what Eric was saying, that I am now the captain of the pre-sales A team. So I managed to get the certificate created for myself. And as you can see, it is an actual PDF. And if we go down here, it will show you all of that. So I am going to give us 3 minutes back, or maybe 2. But if there's any questions, let us know. We can demo any of this stuff. As you saw, Demos had way more demos than I do. This was just our little demo on how to do natural with PDFs. And of course, if you go way back when, I scoured through SAG-L to find the word PDF, and I think I went all the way back into whenever PDFs first came out. And you can even route a mainframe, like something like any print spool, any printing software you have on the mainframe. You could always have been routing out data to a report, and that report could of course become out as a PDF. So that would be another way that people have done this kind of stuff, or probably doing it today still in that kind of mechanism. So I am going to close this out, and I'm going to go back to Becky, I think, who's going to reintroduce me to do the next presentation. So
yeah, so we've done the next session many times over the last couple of years. It's about the fact that natural version 8.2.8 goes out of support at the end of this year, and you have to go to natural 1 as your mainframe editor, or a couple of other options, and that's what Patrick's going to talk about. He's only going to talk about it briefly. If you want to talk about natural 1 versus staying on a green screen editor, contact Patrick, myself, or one of the other systems engineers that you guys know, Demos, Bob, Prudvi, Eric, whoever, or Wayne or Lashley or your AE. But Patrick, yeah, you're going to talk about Team Eclipse or Team Green Screen.
Yeah, I think I have think I have 5 minutes. I think I can do that. So this is the third iteration of this particular presentation, and it gets less and less slides every time, and the roadmap gets smaller and smaller because we're about 50 days away from the end of the year when the natural 8.2.8, which is the last supported version 8, actually will go out of support. And you will then, if you be wanting to stay on support, need to be at a version 9 level. So the agenda looks long, but it's only a few slides in here, so I'm not going to bore you. But we'll do a quick overview. I will show you the benefits again of using Natural One. The roadmaps, what this actually means to you, other options for the green screen editor if it's just something you can't live without, and then some other useful links. But I think you've been given enough links today to keep you busy for a long time. But these are the ones that are associated with Natural One, and then next steps. So again, a little history. Back in 2018, we announced Natural 9 on the roadmap. And we did indicate at that point in time that this version would be retiring the green screen. It was delayed a little bit, or not delayed, it was extended as more and more people became familiar with Natural One. And this year was the big push to get everybody to use Natural One. So we give Natural One away for free because we have taken away your green screen editor. And so it's basically replacement software. So when you get your contracts now, whatever, you will not see Natural NDV Server, and Natural One as separate products. You will just see NAT. And when you get shipped NAT 9 and above, you will get those three products as separate, and you use the same key for all of those three products. Natural 8.2.8 is the last version. It will end support at the end of this year. We have Linux. Unix Natural does not support the green screen editor already at the current versions. And of course, Natural One is an Eclipse-based editor. And as you can see, all of our products, EntireX, Web Methods, they all use Eclipse as their base tool. And our products become plugins to the Eclipse editor. It is, of course, always a good idea to be on supported versions of Natural. So that's really why we're presenting here today. We know there's a lot of government entities, auditing firms that require you to be on supported versions. So we prefer you're on supported versions. It makes an easier job for Kurt and friends, but of course, we'll always help you no matter what version you're on. So introducing Natural One. This is a quick little slide that just says to you what it is. It's a integrated development environment. It's a GUI front end to Natural. It can do so many things. It allows you to build services. It allows you to build the rich internet applications with using Natural for Ajax. It allows you to coexist with a DevOps environment. If your company says you are going DevOps, whether you like it or not, you can have that supported from within the Eclipse environment and share it with a versioning tool, etc. So here is the roadmap. As you can see, it's got smaller and smaller. We only have 4 versions of the products now that are supported, and by the end of this year, we'll be down to 3. So we have 8.2.8 that goes out of support at the end of this month. Then we had 9.1.2 that was introduced in 2021. It goes out of support. I think it might be out of support already, but no, also at the end of this year. So the majority of you will be probably running 9.2.1, which has been out a year already. And it says 23 year because that is at your version 3.1 of the operating system. And then just newly introduced, as you saw from Luciana's slides, is Natural 9.2.2. And that will stay maintained until October of 2026. So we're giving you a big time frame to stay supported there. Let's go back to the presentation. So support requests, like I say, we'll always help you, no matter what version you're on. The only caveat there normally is if your particular request requires a zap or some sort of code change, you're not likely to get that. But if there is an existing fix available, that will always be supplied to you during the support request process. So the highlights of Natural, one is a single UI for all development. It consists of perspectives and views. Some people say it's not easy to learn and it's not intuitive, but I would think once you get used to Eclipse, it's not Natural One, it's Eclipse that takes a little bit of time to figure out in your brain all the new features you have and just work out what works best for you. I think by the time we've all mastered Eclipse, there's definitely going to be a faster development time because you have so much available to you on a single pane that you can manage your whole Natural environment with that. And as I said earlier, it is DevOps integrated if that is something you as an organization want to move into. So these are my useful links. And as you know, this presentation and this whole user group has been recorded. So you will receive all of this information. And I think I am now done.
I have a question for you, Patrick.
Yes.
If you're on Natural 8.2.8, is it better to update to Natural 9.2.1? I can't talk either. Or go to 9.2.1 and then go to 9.2.2, or would it be better to just make the jump from 8.2.8 to 9.2.2?
It all depends on whether you're brave or not brave. Because 9.2.2 has just been released. And I think most of our customers will go with one version back. But again, it's up to you. It's released. So it all depends on what you want.
We need somebody to go on mute.
Yeah, someone needs to go on mute.
And Patrick, if they're at 8.2.8 and they want to go to Natural 9, they can skip 9.1 and go directly to 9.2, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I left one slide, Becky, so let me just talk to it quickly.
Yeah, because you're over already. So yeah,
right.
Make it quick.
So if you absolutely insist that you do not want to use Natural One, of course you can buy Natural ISPF from us. We'd love to sell it to you. It is only for ZOS. It's not a very expensive product, but it does give you the ability to keep the green screen, and a couple of customers have gone with this, but our desire is that you go with Natural One. It really is. It's the future. It's where all the new enhancements will be put into place. You could go with EME with 8.2.8, but that would give you a maximum of 1 year. And generally the prices seem pretty similar, so it might always be a better option to go with the Natural ISPF in that regard. But again, reach out to us if you need more information on these options. So that is it now, Becky.
There's another question for you, Patrick. How long will the old mainframe green screen editors be available if they purchase Natural ISPF?
They'll be available for life. I mean, depends on, these days we do mostly subscriptions, so it'll last your subscriptions as you go. But nothing actually changes. You keep exactly what you have today. You're not going to be using Natural ISPF unless you wanted to. You would just use your normal TSO CICS complete green screen environments.
So the kind of short answer to that, there are no plans to sunset Natural ISPF. So.
No, because the green screen itself is still used by the end user.
Right.
And then Kurt also that's gone away.
And then Kurt came back with an answer on if you're at 8.2.8, should you go to 9.2.1 or 9.2.2? Kurt said he would recommend going directly to 9.2.2 as it contains all the corrections that were made after Natural 9.2.1.
There we go.
Okay. All right. So the last session of the day, but not the least by far, is with Julie Rowe of our professional services team. And remember, hang on after that because I'm going to give away a couple more Amazon gift cards. So Julie is going to talk to you about, if you're on the mainframe and you're thinking about possibly putting Adabas Natural in on Linux in the cloud, however you want to refer to that, she's going to talk to you about how it's not a big thing to do. I mean, it takes a while, but she's going to talk to you about their experiences. Our professional services group has ported hundreds of people, hundreds of customers to Linux. So Julie, I'm going to turn it over to you. Julie, you were on mute.
I'm off mute now. Thanks, Becky. I know I got 5 minutes shaved off, but I think I can get through these slides. Welcome, everybody.
No. Take your time. Take your time, Julie.
Okay.
Take your time.
All right, sounds good. So my name is Julie Rowe. I'm with Professional Services with Software AG. Been here a long, long time. I support customers, state and local governments, and commercial in North America. I'm going to talk today about Linux and what some of our customers are doing or have done in that arena, and how we have supported them along the way. So we have a lot of ANET applications running on Linux platforms. We currently are planning to only support Red Hat and SUSE going forward. We do have some platforms currently that are available and running, but they do have sunset dates for those platforms. So Red Hat and SUSE are the Linux operating systems we intend to support going forward. And I'd like to share a little bit with you about some of the modern architectures, the security improvements and upgrades that we have done with our customers. So let's have a look. So many of these will talk about tools that have been shared about in earlier sessions. So I'm really just going to talk a little bit about how the customers have leveraged these. From a distributed architecture and encryption standpoint, we have a couple of customers we've worked directly with that have taken their applications and split them out. Data on one server, application on the other server. And the way that we do that with communication is through entire network. So to have an architecture such as that, you would need to have an entire network. From the Adabas encryption standpoint, we have a couple of customers that have done encryption at rest, and some who have also done the encryption in transit, where they use SSL and certificates to encrypt that traffic that's going across the network in a distributed architecture scenario. And I also want to point out that we have customers, and this has really been the last few years, a lot of customers, as was talked about earlier, have put SSL, TLS connections in place for all of their Software AG products. So one particular scenario is from the Natural One standpoint. We can SSL enable that traffic that goes from Natural One to the NDV server on your server platform. So all of our products have that capability, and we certainly have more information that can be provided for that if you need that. I'll also point out that I do have some links in these presentations. There's one here for Adabas encryption if you want more information. So throughout here, there will be some links for you to refer back to once you get the presentations. So integration is another story that we've had a lot of activity around. We have customers that have leveraged Connects to allow them the ability to communicate directly with their databases or their data sources. Connects can connect to over 150 data sources. The ones we primarily have worked with have been Adabas with professional services with our customers. They've created various reporting solutions from Power BI, different platforms such as that, using Connects to communicate and extract data from Adabas. They do that for reporting, for data extraction. We also have the event replicator tool that will allow you to perform replications from your databases. We have customers that have built web applications that then leverage the Connects interface to those data sources so they can communicate directly with Adabas or other data sources for their web applications. And we also have customers that use SQL applications, and they create linked servers that give them the visual of their database and allow them to then code directly against that data. AppLinks is a tool. You've heard a little bit about that today. It's an application integration tool. We have several customers that have taken AppLinks and used that basically straight out of the box to provide them with terminal emulation over the web. So instead of having, for example, a terminal emulator such as Reflections or Blue Zone that they would have to then deploy out to the end users to provide that connectivity, they can now serve things over the web using AppLinks in a very quick out-of-the-box solution. There's a lot of other things AppLinks can do. We do have some customers using it for services, to support API services. And they also have done some extensions of their AppLinks interface by extending their browser features, improving their UIs and their navigation. So there are many things that could be done there. EntireX, I think a lot of folks are probably familiar with EntireX. It's been around a long time. It is a message broker that supports service integration. We have a lot of customers that use EntireX to leverage their backend applications, their legacy applications. So they can wrap those applications with an interface, and they can then code against those interfaces from anywhere. So EntireX is a lot of newer solutions too with EntireX have leveraged standard RPC services. In the early days, some of you may remember that we created a lot of ACI servers or services in Natural that basically had to do all of the communication with broker. It had to basically do a log on, a connection, create a conversation, and then disconnect and log off. And that was a method we used many years ago. We've been involved in a couple of projects where we have converted those, helped customers convert those applications to use RPC. So they have a newer solution to leverage EntireX. So again, each one of these has a link to it where you can find additional information about those tools. Natural One and DevOps has been talked about a few times. We do have a couple of customers that are currently going through the DevOps process and integrating with not only the backend repository, but with request systems like Jira. And that's going to give them some great opportunities to, sorry about that, lost my place here. It's going to give them great opportunities to work in a more agile fashion. So integrating with Jira allows them from within the Natural One workspace to have a plugin which allows them to pull up that interface, look at requests, and build those pipelines. They could take advantage and leverage Jenkins to build pipelines and automate their deployment processes. So there's a number of things that you can do once you get into this DevOps tool chain. And from a professional services standpoint, we do support coming in and helping customers build out a roadmap for that, and then implementing Natural One with that tool set. And then just some of the active and planned custom modernizations that we have going on. We do have a customer that's implementing data sync to synchronize data between an ERP system and one of their backend Adabas Natural systems. Entire Access is a tool that provides access to from Natural into ODBC compliant databases such as DB2, Oracle, SQL Server. So that's something that can be used or leveraged on Linux to access those databases directly. From an application integration standpoint, we have customers that have implemented API management where they have leveraged their backend applications to generate data and create and deliver PDFs with that data being merged from their backend systems. From a cloud perspective, Linux and implementations are very easy to migrate over to the cloud. That's a true lift and shift with it's more of a configuration and a move. We have customers that are interested in the scalability that cloud offers them as well. For example, during the year, you may have processes that only run once or twice a year that require additional power or need to be completed in a quicker time. So the cloud offers that capability where you can spin up other additional instances or increase the power of your implementation so that you can process those. We currently provide support for Azure, AWS, and Google Cloud. And then just real quickly on Adabas and Natural high availability, I know Luciano went into some details around that earlier. We do have a customer that is going to be interested in looking at Adabas cluster for Linux as they migrate their application over there, and also looking at Natural availability server. We have a link here for the architecture session that was done at the International Users Group. So you are welcome to take a look at that and see how that was put together. And then just a quick final slide where I have some links around the various professional services information. One of the important things I want to point out is that we do have and provide managed services for both application and database managed services. So if you are having any resource challenges, we're happy to talk to you about how we can help support you there. And we also have fast track services, which enable us to come in there very quickly and support you on various initiatives. So my contact information is below. And as Becky said, these slides will go out to you guys after the meeting.
Thanks, Julie. I said it before, but and Julie has worked here almost as long as myself, Kurt, and some of the others. We've all been here forever. And really, our professional services team really has a wealth of knowledge and practical experience with not only at Software AG, but working with our customers, doing installs, doing the daily DBA work, doing the application work, they can do it all. So if your environment is having one of those generational shifts, you got a lot of people retiring and you need to backfill either, for a short term or long term, professional services can do that. Thank you very much, Julie.
Thanks.
Now, right before we wrap up, I want to ask Nicole to unmute and share her screen. There's a couple of things that I wanted to share with you guys. There you are, Nicole. Okay. So, Nicole, I'm just going to let you take it over, and then everybody hang on because I still got to draw for those Amazon gift cards.
All right. Thank you, Becky. If you guys hang on just 1 second, hopefully you see my screen. It's Tech Channel. As Arno mentioned at the very start of our call today, we're working a lot on our generational change, and we're also trying to help you with your generational change. And the way we're doing that in one way is getting out in front of where we think you might find some new talent and some programmers to help advocate and advertise about Adabas Natural. So when's the last time you guys saw some advertisements? Tech Channel, which used to be IBM Systems Magazine, it has an ebook coming out here this November on mainframe development and DevOps, and we are a proud sponsor of this ebook. And as part of that, we have an advertisement that really talks to the IBM Z audience, obviously, about Adabas Natural. We promote how you can embrace DevOps with it, produce and consume APIs, act faster with our real-time data sharing, and identify and close security risks. So a lot of these are things that you've already heard about today. And if you want to share this with maybe your management or pass it around to show Adabas Natural, it's a commitment to 2050 and beyond. And we're real excited to share all the capabilities that we have available out here.
Nicole, can you copy that link into the chat box?
Absolutely.
That way you guys is the colloquial term. Everybody can, you can copy this link. You could share it with anybody that may work in the Adabas Natural world at your environment that couldn't make this user group meeting. Okay, Nicole?
Great, thanks.
And remember, most of you attended the last user group. Remember that there's a lot of free online training out there especially for Natural. And if you want help with that, just contact any of us. We're more than glad to help you. But there's a lot of free training for Adabas Natural. And before I do the final drawing, I just want to say thank you yet again for taking time out of your day. I know we're all real busy, and we always have a backlog of things to do. So we truly, the whole Software AG team, we truly appreciate you guys sitting through this 3+ hours. And I know it's asking a lot, but at least it's not a whole day. So that's a positive, right? So I've got my little olive wood bowl here, and I've got all these little spaghetti strings in here. And I took out the two, Nancy and the other that one earlier. Oh, geez, I gotta put on my glasses on. It stinks. Oh, goodness gracious. I know this person too. I know almost everybody on this call, by the way. Laura Gross from state of Florida. If you are on, Laura, please put something in the chat box, please, please, please. Because remember, you got to be on to win. So Laura, hopefully you're still on with us. I'll give you a second. I'll give you a second. Nicole, I don't know if you want to just scroll down through the list of attendees to see if Laura's still on. But I'm going to go ahead and draw the second one. All right. Raimundo Valderrama from Canada. I'm not quite sure what agency this is, but it's from Canada, CSLB. Raimundo Valderrama, are you on? I know we've had a lot of people on today, and I know a few people have texted us and said they had to drop. Oh, California. Okay, California, not Canada. Good. So, so you're popping up as unknown user. So Raimundo, got you. Okay, Laura, are you here? Laura, Nicole, did you see Laura? Okay.
I did not. Sorry.
All right, Laura might have had to drop. So I pull out the next one. Garrett, I've known you how many years? Virginia DMV. I can never say your last name. Labuschagne. I can't pronounce it. Garrett, are you still with us? Garrett.
Labuschagne.
Oh, that was Patrick. Okay.
No, it was me. It's Labuschagne. It's Donnie.
Oh, it's you, Donnie. Hey, is Garrett still on with us? If not.
He said yes.
Wait. Oh, is that? Oh, you're also in as an unknown user. Okay, got it. Okay, so Garrett and Raimundo, Nicole will be reaching out to you. So thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate it. We will probably schedule another virtual user group for spring, is my guess, March, April timeframe. And I want to make a plug. If you guys would like to present something, we would really, really appreciate it, because today we had Dan and Shelley talking about some stuff that's happening at State of Iowa. And by the way, State of Iowa is a new to Software AG customer because of Dan and Shelley. So we're still growing. So please think about presenting something. I know Kathy Jackson from Texas has talked about Natural One before. We've had different customers talk about things that they're doing. So please, if you have something you want to share, volunteer. It only needs to be 15 minutes or so. You can not talk about anything sensitive. If you just want to talk about how you run Adabas utilities or how you do this with Natural or whatever, we would appreciate that, because we think we're tired of hearing ourselves talk. So anyway, with that, everybody have a great evening. Enjoy the upcoming holidays. Thanksgiving is just around the corner. So appreciate all the attendance. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you and goodbye.